have a sense of who you're gonna pick, but I've been wrong. I've been shocked before. I've been hitting the gun in the 11th round, so you might surprise me. But fight of the year, man. To me, there's names that come out like in the way. We got names like B Bull, and we got guys like Bam Rodriguez, the heavyweight champion of the world, Usyk, and they've all had big wins. And I don't know if you want to go down those names, Gio, or do you want to just come out swinging and give me your verdict?
Yeah, so we can give a little bit of backstory on each guy, and then we can show you guys the polls to see what the people are voting for, and then we can go into our vote. We'll leave that to the end. So yeah, let me go ahead and find it. So candidates, of course, I think we all have the same ones or similar names. Well, for the YouTube poll, candidates were, of course, Dimitri Bivol, defeated the pound-for-pound king, and then defeated Zurdo Ramirez, an undefeated fighter. Both at 175. Great performances for both fights. Of course, Jesse Bam Rodriguez defeated Carlos Cuadras. Soron Visay and Israel Gonzalez fought 3 times, which is, you can say, rare for a champion, right? We don't see that very often. I wrote Devin Haney defeated George Kambosos twice in Australia, but people weren't happy with that pick. Some people in the comments were criticizing that candidate. So not sure that others voted. He only got 6% on this poll, so I would have to check the other ones. But you got to give him credit. Undisputed champion, right? Even though Kambosos isn't necessarily that top dog opponent. You can say like Usyk, who defeated Anthony Joshua, right?
Right.
Heavyweight champion in his own right. Of course, his belts were taken, but Alexander Usyk defeated Joshua once again after that hiatus of the Ukraine war, decided to make a comeback, quote unquote, start training and defeated Joshua. You can say, I don't know if comfortable is the word, but I think everyone was in agreement that he defeated Anthony Joshua, even though it was a somewhat close fight. But yeah, let's not forget Naoya Inoue, right? Undisputed champion, stopped Nonito Donaire, stopped Paul Butler. But yeah, I see a trend here. Wasn't surprised by what most people were voting for. But let's get into the polls first, Chris, before we get into our picks. All right. So fighter of the year 2022 on our YouTube poll, and I can go ahead and pull it up for you guys here. 2022 fighter of the year, as you guys see there on your screen. We'll start with Devin Haney, who only received 6% of the votes. Alexander Usyk received 15% of the votes on 4th place. Bam Rodriguez, 17% of the votes, and Dimitri Bivol, 52% of the votes. So that one does not surprise me, Chris.
Yeah, not surprising at all. Obviously, Bivol gaining a wide recognition, being the consensus #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world at the time in Canelo Alvarez. So, of course, his name was going to rise to the ranks. Of course, people were going to, vote for him. You beat the top guy, they're going to automatically, gravitate to you. So I'm not surprised. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree.
All right. Hold your horses. All right, because we do have another poll on Instagram. 50% of people voted Bivol. 50% voted Bam Rodriguez.
Hey.
Just to put it out there.
Ooh.
But hey, you look like you were swinging, and I kind of stopped you. I kind of intervened. I was like that ref.
You did.
I was like that ref with King Kong versus Wilder. I was like, oh, hold up. Don't hit him too hard. Don't hit him too hard. But yeah, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. Proceed.
Yeah, no. Again, I completely understand why people have him. I had him highly rated as well. He was my 1 and 2 also going into this fight of the year. Again, like you mentioned, he beat 2 guys that are, probably the most recognizable guys at 175. and he came to the mainstream. Nobody really knew who Bivol was unless you were a boxing purist. And so he did what many people that didn't know, him, he made believers in him. So I see why he's nominated by most of the fans in our poll. But I believe somebody else did something much tougher. I think somebody decided to challenge themselves way before in the quote unquote their time. This person could have waited a year, could have waited 2 years, could have waited for his body to get bigger and challenged some of these fighters that he beat this year. He could have waited for them to get a little bit older, but no, he wanted to challenge, and he did it in an amazing fashion. He didn't just knock down some guys; he knocked out the other. And we knock on some guys for not fighting enough. He decided to fight a third time, even though he, in my opinion, he struggled a little bit more. I feel like that doesn't take away from the fact that he gave us a third fight. He didn't have to, and he did. So to me, in my opinion, the fighter of the year, and it's very close. It's very close because he's a small guy, and the recognition usually goes to the bigger guys. Has to go to Jesse Bam Rodriguez, in my opinion.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, my plan going into this was to let Chris go first because he be having some not so hot takes, right? But I'm very proud of you because we're, for the most part, on the same page. Look, it's very easy to vote for Bivol, right? That's the sexy name. That's the one that's going to give the headlines, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are fake. Let's call it what it is, because none of you guys gave Bivol a chance against Canelo, and all of a sudden he's your fighter of the year, right? But to me, what surprises me is that, I was reading some articles. I was trying to see what these other people who they were voting for, right? And it's still shocking to me. It blows my mind how these people actually get paid to write, to report, to make videos or whatever. They get paid for this, right? They're paid journalists, and they still think that Bivol was an underdog in this fight. I mean, mind blown. You could tell these people had never watched Bivol fight before, right? And that's kind of sad because, like I said, they get paid for this, right? So I think that's why we don't put as much value in him beating Canelo as these other people, because we've seen Bivol before. We came up here and we said, I personally said, I don't want to speak for Chris, but I personally said, this is Canelo's toughest challenge, up there with Beterbiev. These two guys, right? All these people you guys want to talk about, David Benavidez, all these Charlos. Stop it. Don't disrespect Canelo, man. Don't disrespect Bivol. Don't disrespect Beterbiev. And that's exactly what you guys did. You disrespected Bivol before this fight, and he proved all you guys wrong. But it's not like we were shocked when we were watching it live, right? This guy's a tremendous boxer. He's a great boxer. So I know you guys are putting a lot of value in that Canelo win, and rightfully so. Pound for pound king, right? Number one in the world. But let's be honest. What Bam Rodriguez did was go up 2 weight classes, not 1, 2 weight classes, right? Bivol fought a guy who was smaller than him. Huge advantage. You guys saw what happened in the fight, right? And then he fought another guy who, to me, is just a contender at 175, right? He's never won a belt at that weight class. He's never even been close. When you compare him to the champions at 175, there's a big gap in skill and resumes, right? Between Zurdo and the Beterbievs of the world and the Bivols of the world. So I agree 100% with you, Chris. What Bam did was twice as tough, in my opinion, than what Bivol did. Even though, like I said, the great story of the year was Bivol defeating Canelo, right? 4-1 underdog, people want to say. How? Not sure, man. Don't listen to the odds. Don't listen to the bettors, because those people never watch Bivol fight. So, in reality, Bam Rodriguez goes up 2 weight classes, dominates one of the 4 kings, Carlos Cuadras. Yes, maybe not in his prime, but to go up 2 weight classes and dominate a guy like that is very tough. He didn't get knocked. Him and Israel Gonzalez didn't get knocked out just because they're tough guys, man. Some of the toughest fighters I've seen all year, because those fights should have ended in a KO. And then when you take a look at what he did to Soren Visai, obviously a veteran, obviously an older guy, but to stop him, come on, man. 2 weight classes above yours. I think it's tough to argue against that, but it's always tough when the Canelo name is involved, right? But you got to give credit where credit is due, and I think we both agree that Jesse Bam Rodriguez, what he did, 22 years old, ladies and gentlemen, 22 years old. I mean, come on, that's historic. I don't think people see it that way now, but I think later in his career they're gonna realize how big this year was for Jesse Bam Rodriguez, especially taking some of these fights on late notice. Insane.
Yeah. Yeah, like you mentioned other names like Usyk, Inoue, Bivol. They're great names, and many do have him as their fighter of the years. But like you mentioned, I think what he did against multiple fighters and multiple fighters that are established, and multiple fighters that have reigned for quite a while. Bigger than him. It just says a lot. When I had a sit down with Virgil Ortiz, who's one of his best friends, I asked him at all, were you at all nervous for him? And then Virgil was like, I believe in his skills. I've seen his skills, and I know he's talented. But hey, two weight divisions going up are two weight divisions. He's like, not many people do that. So yeah, he's like, yeah, there was that nervousness on the back of my head because you just never know. That's someone you care about. That's someone that you see train you. That's someone you don't want to see get hurt. He's like, but after that knockdown against others, he's like, I knew he had it. So again, going up is no easy feat. There's a reason why there's these divisions, and people go up, a division steadily, not just jump up two. So yeah, again, against who he did it, 2 of the 4 kings. The other 2 are still fighting. That Bam is going to test himself, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of guys that don't have him as fighter of the year. That's just going to motivate him for next year. As for us, I can't give people that award just yet. If he does it against a Beterbiev or somebody of that caliber, easy, he takes it. But for this year, Bam Rodriguez, fighter of the year.
I'm not gonna lie, I am shocked, Chris.
I know
am
you are,
shocked.
Gio.
You're making so much sense right now. You're making so much sense.